You're now tuned in to the Desire to Trade podcast, a show where we bring you the best figures of the trading world and teach you how you can become a successful trader. This is your host, Etienne Cret.
Hi everyone, for episode 6 of the Desire to Trade podcast, I've had another great interview with, this time, Rande Howell. He is the author of Mindful Trading, one of the best trading books according to many traders, and he talked about a lot of things, including beliefs, how you can evolve as a trader, what's the condition you must develop as a trader, what's a trader's state of mind, and he shares his best advice on new trader. He also talked about the difference between men and women when it comes to trading, which I found pretty interesting. Rande coaches a lot of people, from trader to golfer to virtually anyone. So he shared a lot of great advice, and I really hope you'll like it. If you like the show so far, it's been 6 episodes, so if you like the show so far, please leave us a review. It would help a lot, definitely. So go leave a review, enjoy the show, and if you want to know anything about me, if you want to send me a message, ask me a question, anything, check out desiretotrade.com, and you'll get all the resources there. You'll be able to send me an email straight away. Alright, so thanks a lot. Enjoy the show. Why don't you start just by telling us about what you do these days?
What do I do these days? Well, I do a number of things. Right now I am teaching a group class where I'm teaching the basic protocol of what I do of emotional intelligence, where you learn emotional regulation, mindfulness, and what I call applied mindfulness. I'm teaching that, and I teach a number of individual clients who, basically what they're doing is they're getting a lot of personalized attention about how to deal with their fear and how to turn toward it and how to transform that fear into higher functioning states. And I'm also developing a protocol for golfers right now, too. So there you go.
All that has to do with mindfulness, I guess, at the beginning, right?
Oh, absolutely. Mindfulness and emotional regulation.
So could you tell us a little bit, basically, what is mindfulness and emotional regulation afterward?
Yeah, mindfulness is a recognition that you and your thoughts, you and your beliefs are not the same. And that, in fact, you do not have thoughts and beliefs. They have you. And what happened is, in your mindlessness, you have just been drifting on these currents of life for a long time. And trading will just absolutely has a way of waking you up, because it robs money out of you if you just mindlessly drift on the currents of life. But what happens is, in stepping back out of that, you begin to say, well, you know something? I don't have to believe and stay fused to this set of beliefs. What I can do is I can step back out of it, and I can begin to examine whether or not that's actually an effective belief system or an effective way of thought. And that, in fact, in mindfulness, what you discover is that your brain has organized you into a particular organization of a self, that there is no I, there is a particular organization. And in mindfulness, you get to step back and say, what is the organization of self that I'm bringing into this moment? When you get to that, you really begin to see that, oh my God, I've been bringing the wrong self into trading, and that in the same way biologically that there's neural plasticity, in mindfulness, you discover that the self can be reorganized. And they're one and the same. Neural plasticity and the reorganization of the self are the same. What most people discover as they become mindful is the mind that they have brought to trading is not going to be the mind that produces success in trading, but that mind can be designed to embrace probability rather than certainty. That's what I would call mindfulness.
What is emotional regulation?
Yes, it does go along with it, but what happens is that emotional regulation is developing the capacity to regulate the intensity of an emotion. Like if you take fear, which is very common in trading, is that if it's at a low level, it can be managed, it can be worked with, but as it starts cranking up, it takes over the mind. It just hijacks the mind. And in regulation, what you're doing is you're stopping it from getting so intense that it takes over and hijacks mind, which is what happens when you see people do revenge trading, when you see people hesitating, not getting into trades, or when you see people jumping out of trades that they really needed to stay in. If you were to regulate that emotion, it wouldn't have the chance of taking over mind. And probably in what we're talking about is that all emotion is biological. Okay, it is not psychological. It takes over psychology. And because it's biological, each emotion has a signature of breath, the way you breathe, the way you hold tension, and your heart rate. And if you look at fear, it's going to stop you from breathing. Okay, it's going to stop breath. All right, and all you're going to be doing is panting at the very top. It's going to tense your muscles ready to run, to flee, to avoid, and your heart rate's going to accelerate to be able to produce the oxygen and the food that your body needs to escape. That may be good from escaping from a saber-toothed tiger, but it is a terrible thing to do when you're managing uncertainty and you don't know what's going to happen. So if you alter the breath so that it's diaphragmatic and you're breathing into the abdomen and then expanding to chest, it's going to stop the capacity of fear to maintain itself. If you relax the body of tension, it's also going to stop the capacity for the emotion of fear to rev itself up. And as you do that, you're going to slow down the heart rate, which is the same thing, is that the heart rate can't work in union with breath and with tension to produce fight-flight. Because ultimately, the trader is doing everything he can to stay away from fight-flight response to the unknown. And you're looking for a very tight window of where your mind is alert, it's focused and ready, but the body has not been activated to flee or to fight. That's what emotional regulation does for you.
I would like you to tell us, what is the right trader state of mind exactly?
Well, the right trader state of mind is one that allows you to extract capital consistently out of the markets, okay? And over time, what we've basically discovered is that the emotional state that governs the way you think, that is able to do that, is rooted in disciplined impartiality. Both those are emotional state. Discipline is an emotional state. This maintains order of the self under pressure. Impartiality allows you to think clearly. And what you have to be able to do when you're doing that, you are both calm, you are patient, but you were focused and you were ready. Okay? That's the mind you're looking for. If there's a tinge of fear in there, the impartiality is absolutely wiped away very quickly. If there is overconfidence there, what I would call testosterone and dopamine, the ability of being disciplined is not there, because all of a sudden you're seeing, and with all that enthusiasm and all that kind of like irrational exuberance, what you're doing is the emotional state's causing you to minimize the actual risk that you would have if you were in an impartial mind looking at risk. Same thing that happened at the Whale and JP Morgan several years ago when they evaporated $8 billion.
And then from the point you start out trading to the point where you have the right state of mind, what happened between those two times?
What happened? You transformed.
So how does that transformation happen?
Training. And it's most people learn a lot better with a mentor. But the main thing is you go through a process of you train the body from decades and decades and decades of reactive emotional nature. I mean, understand, if you're 50 years old, you have 45, 47 years of persistent habituation of reacting in a particular way that is going to have to be retrained. That's the first real step in trading, is you have to do all that retraining. And then you have to redevelop the mind. Is that the mind that, what your brain does is when it is born into circumstance, it organizes you to be successful in the short term in that environment. And when you take the person out of the environment they are adapted to, they're going to reproduce the conditions of that environment again, because that's what they're adapted to do. In trading, what you're doing is you're saying, no, I need to change that adaptation of the way that I see the markets. And that's what happens is you have to move from a certainty mindset for survival to a probability-based mindset for trading. And literally, the mind that you need for trading is pretty much 180 degrees opposite of the brain and mind that was designed by evolution to survive in the moment. But that's what you evolve to, and that's what the really great traders have done. They think in probability, and they don't think in outcomes. You're not going to see a professional trader looking at trades and going, oh my God, I lost that one. I lost that one. Oh my God. What they're doing is, did I perform well? Did I control the process that I'm supposed to be doing? Am I controlling the mind that I'm bringing into the moment of performance? If they did, they know that their methodology is going to give them an edge and that they will extract capital out of the markets. If you have an untrained mind, as you take those losses, what happens is you start becoming fearful that you're not going to win and you get all messed up. In corollary, if you go on a streak and start winning, you start getting overconfident and you think you can't lose. So it's this very tightly focused little place of discipline and partiality that you train yourself to that allows you to embrace and engage uncertainty and probability. And that is a big shift from the mind that you bring to trading.
And what condition must the trader create in order to succeed better? So is there anything the trader can do to help himself in the process?
Oh, sure. Right off the bat, they can start learning how to become very mindful of their breathing, mindful of their body. Most people never watch their bodies, and they're shocked to find out that they have an accelerated pulse rate, they have really tense bodies, and they're not breathing. And they don't first associate that with a very inadequate mind for trading. But that's the setup for fear, okay, or for revenge, anger. And so you're already seeing that when you observe that, you can interrupt it. And you don't have to be sucked into it so easily. And a lot of traders get a lot of benefit out of that. But developing a mindfulness practice and then starting to develop the ability to observe thought, that takes a little more training. That's not something that is going to be so easily. That's not something you're going to do at home by reading a book, okay? And I get plenty of people that read my book and say, "Oh man, I've learned all this stuff," and I get lots of accolades. People writing me saying, "Randy, this has really changed." And I wonder, yeah, but are you extracting capital out of the markets by reading my book? Usually, it just takes more than a book. It takes specified training to be able to retrain the brain to perceive differently. And if you were to look at it from a neurological standpoint, is ultimately you have never seen the markets. What happens is that your brain is taking sensorial information from your senses. It organizes it into a virtual representation of the markets based on your belief system. Okay? That is what you're projecting onto the markets. That is when you're looking at the health of your trading account. You are looking at the effectiveness of that virtual representation to extract capital out of the markets. It's not right. The markets don't care. They can't discern that you have the right interpretation. You don't see and then believe. You believe something and then you see it. And so when you really nose down and saying, I need to be looking at my beliefs about what I believe about my ability and capacity to manage uncertainty, to engage the unknown. Am I going to be okay with it? Am I going to mess up? Or am I going to make a mistake? Or am I okay with performance? That's what you can do that. It just, to me, I've just found that it's a lot easier with training rather than just deciding that you're going to have a set of beliefs and believing that you're going to believe that, because ultimately your performance beliefs are revealed about how you perform under pressure. That's the ticket.
So would that mean you don't recommend looking at a trader's trading account too often, or would that be like a source of discouragement or a source of failure, I guess?
No, what I would actually rather say, if you're taking a look at your trading account, you need to listen to your trading account the way you would listen to a close friend. If your equity curve is growing, then the virtual representation that you have of the markets is effective. If it's not growing, what you're learning, it's not bad about you. It's just the mind, in terms of beliefs that you're bringing to interpret the markets through, is not effective, and you need to root out those beliefs, and you need to work with them and change them so that your belief structure allows you to see the markets differently. I mean, it goes down as simple as that. Surfers, one of my clients is a portfolio manager in Australia, and he's a surfer, and he surfs pretty good sized waves that I would never even think about getting in the water with. But what happens is when he's surfing, and what helped him out so much was recognizing that the wave, just like the markets, don't recognize he's even there. The wave is just absolutely indiscriminate. It could care less, and it's not meant to cause him fear. It's not meant to cause him joy. It's just a wave. And yet, the mind, based on whether or not he's disciplined and impartial about finding the right entry point, about his skills, about getting up in the wave, allows him to either have a good ride on that wave, equity growth, or a winning trade, or a crash and burn where he's sucked into a 30-foot wave and devoured for a while. He learns to have humble confidence, and he learns to find out, what is the ocean willing to give me rather than what am I going to take? That's really what makes a great trader, is that they really are not trying to take anything. They realize that that's the way to get hurt, and they realize that they need to be dancing and in tune with the market, and the market will show them what the market is willing to give. That's about as close as I can come to it.
And how would someone go about changing his belief when the beliefs are not aligned with the proper mindset?
Well, first of all, you have to find the operating belief. A lot of people who initially first get into trading, a lot of guys in particular, have so much testosterone running in them that they will not face their fears. They will not face their anxiety. Okay? They've always been able to, bluster themselves and stuff like that. But when they get into trading, they find themselves going to pieces. And they blame all sorts of things, but they don't look at it and go, what is the belief system behind my performance that's creating this fear? And the self-honesty, which is to me the biggest thing, is you start honestly looking at yourself and saying, you know something? I see that I have a fear of the unknown. And to me, that's the biggest fear. You can talk a lot about fears, revenge trading, where trying to get your money back, the fear of missing out, the fear of loss, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, it all boils down to an inherent fear of the unknown. And that's just human. And the difference is, are you going to recreate the observer of the self that goes to that unknown, and instead of triggering to fear, are you going to trigger to curious concern? Okay? And it requires, I've seen traders do it by themselves, and I've seen it take 10, 15 years to do it. I've seen traders take 2 or 3 years to do it with mentorship with other people who know how to do this and know how to teach regulation. They know how to teach the mindfulness, and they know how to root out the belief systems, expose them, and then start doing the hard work of reconstructing belief system. But that's how you do it.
Have you coached many women for trading?
Well, not nearly as many as men, but I can tell you this, is that women, what I call estrogen biological units, they do not have the same problem that the testosterone crowd has, is that they don't have any of that stupid risk mentality built into them. And they can make incredibly good traders because they've got estrogen there, and they're not thinking about manliness. They're not thinking about hitting the home run. They're just thinking about doing well. They can become very good traders. I've seen during the course of a year, I may see 100 men and I'll only see like 5 women. Okay. But the women as a group easily come to outperform the men, and they're not nearly as tough to work with. They don't have fragile egos like most men.
And what do you think would be the main weakness that women have to work on?
The major weakness generally is pleasing others. I've seen a number of women who they really don't want to be wrong. They're the ones that fall in perfectionism, and they decided, if I only please him, if I only do everything right, then same thing in women in love. If I only please him, if I do everything right, then he'll love me. And that makes a very bad trader. Okay. And ultimately, once they get over their perfectionism of recognizing that you can do everything right and still be wrong in trading, it's a game of probabilities where you should have an edge. And once they grasp that, man, they're off to the races. Like I said, there's none of this having to prove to self. There's none of this bravado stuff that gets in a woman's ability to trade.
For either a new trader or someone who is losing money today, what's the thing you would recommend doing that they can apply right now in trading?
Well, usually when I start working with traders, first of all, my program is built upon trading live, so that we want to teach under the environment that you need to be learning in. What I do with traders who are having problems, who are literally losing money, the first thing I do is I want them to scale back so that they have minimum risk. At the same time, they can feel the emotions. There's no reason to be trading 5 contracts and getting a load of fear when one contract can produce enough fear for us to work with. Okay. And the main thing is to scale down until you can manage that particular area. Then you start scaling back up. And again, a lot of people have difficulty. Probably what I do with extended study folks is they are sizing up. And what they discover is that as they start, as they go from 1 to 2 to 3, and then multiples of 3 or 4 trades, contracts and up, what they discover is each time they move up, it's kind of like a whole new psychology that they have to deal with. Because it's kind of the same. You can say in trading, well, it's only more zeros. That's all it means, but you're still risking more capital, and that capital is really associated with your sense of security and your sense of power in the world. And people will get decompensated as they move up if they don't do it in a structured way that allows them to grow and to grow and to grow. They just don't jump from one level to the next without trying. But if you're already losing money, find a better teacher. And what I basically say is this, is that if you make money in simulation, and when you go and you risk money, you start losing, then it's very clear it's the psychology that's the problem. It's the performance psychology that's the problem. Those people, they can either tough it out and they can have a very long, steep learning curve to get to the top, or they can find a psychological coach, a performance coach that helps them with the belief system behind their poor performance. And that's, for instance, what I do. Very few people have real wisdom. Very few people recognize that their psychology that they came to trading with is not going to work. And they keep believing that I'm going to get over this hump, I'm going to get over this hump, I'm going to get over this hump. So most of the people that I see have been trading for 5 or 10 years, and usually they've either lost, anywhere from $50,000 to $5 million. And they finally figured out that they themselves are the problem in their trading. It's not something else. And they're not going to bulldoze their way through to success. Or on the other hand, there's people who have been scratch traders for 5 years, and they realize that they're stuck at scratch unless they can get at the scarcity thinking. that sits below the performance of scratch trading. I get a lot of people who blow up all their capital and then say, Randy, I thought what you were doing was just all BS and stuff like that. But now that I see it, I understand now. And geez, would you take a charity case? And I'd say, no, I'm a capitalist. This costs money.
Okay. But I guess you still get a lot of clients. So, probably people see a lot of value in it.
Yeah. If you're trading, and if you've lost $1,000, if you've lost $3,500, if you've lost $5,000, or if you haven't just lost it, or you've just left it on the table, you see the value in emotional intelligence work that allows you to quit losing that kind of money, and to also take more money off the table. And they see it and go, well, the thing is, I can keep doing the same stupid thing over and over again, thinking that I'm going to become a better trader over time. Or I can recognize that I'm stuck in a pattern, and that pattern's not going to change. That comfort zone's not going to change until I develop the skills to change it. And most people just simply don't have the skills by themselves to change highly adapted neural patterns that trigger and take over mind. They just don't have it. And I used to try to talk people into it, and I no longer do that anymore. I discover that traders will find their own level of pain, and until they find that pain, they're not going to listen. So,
well, that's what we say among traders. Like we always say, it would have been a much better investment to pay someone right from the beginning to learn how to do it right, than to spend many years trying to do it by himself. So for sure that's worth it. I want to talk now about your website and your book. So you have a great website with a lot of
free stuff. I have what is known as a content-rich website. When you go there, the first thing is that depending on where you are in trading, from beginner to highly experienced, I have a free ebook that, as you come to the website, there's this little thing, there's this little button you can hit that says free ebook. And it's a compilation. I've got 160 pages of articles that I've written over the years. And it goes over every aspect of trading, and people get it, and it's really good material. I also have 10 or 15 articles that, I've either written for the website, for other people that are on there. And I've also got, I have a YouTube channel that I have a lot of embedded videos on that I've done over 50 videos. So, the moment that you hit one video, people will spend hours on my website and as a learning experience, and it's all free at that moment. That's the free part.
Yeah, it's like a full school basically on a website, so it's worth checking it out for sure. What's the address for the website again?
It is www.mytradersstateofmind.com.
And I want to talk a little bit more about your book, the famous Mindful Trading.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about what's in it?
Yeah, Mindful Trading is very unique in the way that it's written, in that it's written from being inside the head of a trader, okay? And it starts out with a trader being just a bull in a china shop. He's blowing things up, he doesn't know why, and he's frustrated and about to quit. And then it goes through a process. I'm using the vignettes of real traders going through as they began to open up and develop the emotional regulation, the mindfulness, the internal dialogue, the empowered dialogues. As they're doing through that, you're seeing them improve, and you're seeing the same group of traders at the end becoming consistently profitable traders. And in it, so I'm using, traders' stories are driving. So this is actually very dramatic. People say, Randy, it's like you just looked right inside my mind. How could this be happening to other people? But what I'm doing is I'm also explaining how the brain adapts and takes on certain beliefs. I'm showing about how adaptation to circumstances work and attachment works, and how you go about rewiring the brain and its beliefs to produce a mind that embraces uncertainty and the unknown rather than being angry or of trying to avoid the uncertainty and the unknown, but literally the mind of probability that embraces it. Really powerful book. And there's also there's a workbook that comes with it that basically I kept having people ask me for a workbook that goes with the book and saying, well, Randy, I'm never going to take one of your courses, but it'd be really nice to have a workbook that went along with your book. So I ended up creating that. And I also have some what I call really inexpensive guided meditations, about 6 of them that go along with that. And those are things that, even traders that are, with a small, like $5,000 account or less, up to like a $25,000, $30,000 account, could easily afford, and it's going to help them. And, as your account size grows, or if your asset level allows you, I have the group course and I have the individual course that are, that actually, I go in and I actually teach you how to rebuild the mind for probability thinking, and one from a group perspective and the other from an individual perspective, where, you get individual mentorship. You see me 10 times over a course of 4 months, and it's deeply involved. It's highly personal course, but lots of stuff.
And all the information for these courses are on your website?
Lots and lots and lots. Yes, lots and lots.
Do you have any future plan or any announcement you want to make?
Well, I'm going to be in Denver this coming Friday. I'm going to a conference and being there. But the one thing I've basically discovered, is that I started noticing about a year or so ago that many of my clients play golf. Okay. And they started applying my technology to their golf game. And they started becoming much better golfers. And a long time ago, before I started working exclusively with traders and financial people, I used to also work with golfers. I mean, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, which has an unbelievable amount of golf courses around here and a lot of money. So it was a good place to focus. But what I've discovered as I started going, I'm curious about this, and I've discovered that the golf mind and the trader's mind are very, very similar, is that both require you to let go of outcome. You can't make the damn shot sink, and you have to develop a process mind that is focused on how you perform in the moment and what beliefs you're bringing into that moment to manage uncertainty. And so out of that, we have now begun to develop a curriculum, and we're a long ways from being ready with it. But we're developing a curriculum for the golf mind that is based on the same precepts as the trader's mind work is. And for any of those out in the know, is that in trader psychology does not really get at, sports psychology does not get at the belief that's driving performance very well. It kind of just wants you to ignore that belief for a moment. Whereas in my work, what I'm teaching people to do is to turn toward the discomfort of the self-limiting belief and to transform it. So anyway, it'll be interesting. And I'm in a very good location to start a new chapter. I'll never stop working with, active investors, whether or not they're traders or portfolio managers. But at the same time, what I recognize is that there are other audiences that this particular kind of technology can be applied to, and where you have I think what's driven most of my success in working with traders is that there is one thing that cuts through all bullshit. It's called your trading account. It will not lie to you. It will expose the truth to you, whether or not you like it or not. And in the same way, in trading, your score and how it relates to cracking 100, cracking scratch, or whether or not you're under par, those scores tell you the effectiveness you are as a golfer. So I've got a black and white barometer on each side that allows me to get at the core beliefs a lot easier. But
I think I like the idea.
The idea is pretty cool. And, in the same way, it's really interesting is that I don't play golf and I don't particularly like golf, but I have become fascinated about how difficult it is to get your head, the putter, and that little ball lined up together to get into a hole. I'm fascinated by it.
Is there anything you want to mention to Trader before I ask you one last question?
No, I think we've covered it. I think it's you've done a very thorough job of you've gotten on the website, the stuff there, there's some free stuff there, and that and ultimately, if people are serious about trading and they want to explore me, they need to get past all the free stuff and they need to at least get to mindful trading. And most people who read that book end up reading it 3 or 4 times back to back. And they will highlight it, and then they underline it, then they take notes all over it. And I think that's why it's one of the go-to books in trading, because they just go, oh my God, he actually is showing me not just what the mind should look like, but he's actually showing me how you go about building the mind that can perform well in the circumstance of uncertainty. So you've covered all that, so we're good to go.
So I wanted to ask you my last question.
Sure.
If you could give only one sentence of advice for a new trader, what would that one sentence be?
Get a good teacher. Learn methodology very well. What I get is I will see a lot of people who are self-taught, and they could have cut a lot of time finding a really good trader. And a really good trader who teaches is one who shows you his score. He actually shows you his equity curve. He doesn't have to make money off of the butts in his room. He could make money simply because he's a good trader. He just likes to teach also. You're looking for a guy like that. And when you do that, that's the first important thing to me. And then the second most important thing to me is that when you come to the moment of where you're profitable in simulation and you move to live trading and you see that you're not, I would spend some money developing the psychological skills that go along with the knowledge skills that you've learned. You will cut out 5 years of frustration if you do that. I do like my traders to be successful in simulation before they come to me. That way I know for sure that it's performance anxiety that's the problem. And at the same time, I also work with traders who are just, having anxiety attacks in simulation too. If you get a hold of a good teacher, and generally it takes a couple years to get that knowledge, 2 to 5 years. And then when you start going live and start risking capital, see what happens. And don't trust the BS of that there's a holy grail out there. Is that, you are the holy grail. It's in the rough. It has to be developed, but you are the holy grail. And it's worth investing in.
If you guys want to know more about that show, you can simply go to desirettotrade.com/Rande, Rande. You'll get all the information, all the resources we mentioned on that show. So go check that out, and I'll see you on the next podcast. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Desire to Trade podcast. To get all the information on this show, free articles, and unique resources, make sure to check out www.desirettotrade.com and subscribe. Please leave us a review and let us know what you thought about the show. It's time to become the best trader you can be. See you next time.